Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into something really interesting, a big trend we're seeing in wellness. It's this huge turn towards natural remedies, specifically ones focused on women's health needs. And, well, if you've been looking at supplements lately, one name keeps popping up, ashwagandha. So today, that's our focus. With Soothania somnifera, the scientific name, we've got a lot to unpack, drawing from, traditional Ayurvedic use, centuries of it, but also some really important modern clinical trials, placebo-controlled stuff. We want to get past the buzzwords and see, how does this actually help women? Hormones, energy, mood, the whole picture.
Absolutely. And I think before we jump into the specifics for women, we really need to grasp the core idea here. Ashwagandha is what's known as an adaptogen. That term, adaptogen, it's not just clever marketing, it's fundamental to how it works. Basically, it means the herb helps your body adapt to stress. It helps restore balance when things get thrown off. It's not like a sedative that just knocks you out. Think of it more like a peanut. Like it fine-tunes your body's stress response system. That system, the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, that's like the command center for stress. When we're constantly stressed, it's just firing nonstop, right? Pumping out cortisol. Ashwagandha seems to help modulate that, sort of dial it back down. It improves your body's resilience, so the next stressful thing doesn't send you spiraling quite so much. And that resilience, well, that's why it's becoming so relevant today with our crazy lifestyles.
Right, that difference modulating, not just masking. That sounds like the key takeaway. So our mission today is to really break down how that deep stress regulation translates into concrete benefits for you, our listeners. Let's start with arguably one of the trickiest areas it seems to support, hormones. Ashwagandha is really getting noticed for potentially helping women who are dealing with hormonal ups and downs. Whether it's irregular cycles earlier on or the big shifts during perimenopause and menopause, the sources we looked at mentioned some pretty specific effects on the body.
They really do. And this is where you see that interesting overlap, ancient wisdom meeting modern science. Clinical trials specifically looking at women's hormonal health found that taking ashwagandha can help regulate some key reproductive hormones. Specifically, they observed an increase in estradiol levels, that's a really important type of estrogen, and at the same time, a decrease in two hormones from the pituitary gland, FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone.
Okay, wait. Let's unpack that a bit for people like me who aren't endocrinologists. Reducing FSH and LH. What does that actually mean practically? What's the effect?
Yeah, great question. So FSH and LH are basically the signals the brain sends down to the ovaries telling them what to do. FSH tells the egg follicles to grow, and LH, well, that's the one that spikes to trigger ovulation. Now, when levels of FSH and LH are consistently high, especially outside of their normal cycle peaks, it can signal that the body is under stress or, dealing with age-related changes like in menopause. The system is working harder. So by helping to lower those signaling hormones, ashwagandha seems to foster what the sources called a more balanced hormonal environment. Things are just calmer, hormonally speaking. And this ties directly into menopause support too, by helping smooth out those fluctuations and potentially boosting that estradiol a bit. The herb might offer real relief from some of those classic symptoms, hot flashes, mood swings. The studies and anecdotal reports suggest fewer hot flashes, better quality of life. It positions it as a really promising non-hormonal approach for navigating that transition.
That's fascinating. But if it's increasing estrogen even a little, that brings up a point about safety, right? For women with certain conditions, did the sources mention anything about risks?
Right.
Or who should be cautious because of these sort of estrogen-mimicking properties?
That's a really crucial point to raise, yes. While the studies generally frame it as beneficial modulation, the safety warnings are very clear. Anyone with a history of estrogen-sensitive conditions, think certain types of breast cancer, maybe severe endometriosis, they absolutely must talk to their doctor or specialist first. We're talking about subtle adjustments, trying to find balance, not like taking actual hormone replacement therapy. But that potential interaction, it has to be taken seriously, no question.
Okay, good. That's the responsible approach we need.
Yeah.
So moving on slightly, but still related. Fertility. Beyond those direct hormone tweaks, the sources also highlight how ashwagandha's stress-busting power, its adaptogen nature, has this huge indirect benefit for fertility.
Exactly right. Stress is it's a known roadblock to conception. It's well documented. When your body feels like it's constantly in fight or flight mode because of chronic stress or anxiety, guess what often gets put on the back burner? Reproductive functions. It's like the body says, hey, not a safe time to bring a baby into the world. So by helping manage that HPA axis, dialing down the stress and anxiety, ashwagandha basically creates a calmer internal landscape. It allows the reproductive system to, do its job without that constant psychological red alert overriding everything.
That shift in the internal environment, it seems like it also leads to some of the results in our source material that were frankly quite surprising, specifically around sexual health.
Yes. This is where the clinical evidence gets really, really robust. I mean,
Right.
multiple placebo-controlled studies, and they found ashwagandha significantly improved pretty much every aspect of female sexual function they measured. We're not talking small subjective changes here. The data showed improvements in desire, arousal, lubrication, even orgasm quality, and overall satisfaction. And importantly, a reduction in sexual pain, too. That's huge.
Wow, across the board like that.
Yeah.
6 different areas improving. That is remarkable. Did the research point to why? What's the mechanism behind such a comprehensive effect?
Yeah, it seems to come back to that powerful dual action we keep mentioning. First, the stress and anxiety reduction. When you're less stressed, you're more present, more able to connect with desire. Makes sense, right? But second, there seems to be an improvement in blood flow. And healthy sexual response, especially arousal and lubrication, heavily depends on good circulation to the pelvic region. So the thinking is that ashwagandha's adaptogenic effects might also enhance general vasodilation, relaxing blood vessels, which benefits that whole system.
Is that combination, the stress relief plus the potential blood flow improvement, is that something common to all adaptogens, or is ashwagandha kind of special in that regard?
That's a good nuance. It seems particularly pronounced with ashwagandha in this context, based on the studies we looked at. While lots of adaptogens are great for stress, the specific documented improvements across the entire female sexual function index, linked potentially to both stress and blood flow, that really made ashwagandha stand out in the research. And just for context, the typical dose used in these studies was often around 300 milligrams, taken twice a day, usually for at least 8 weeks, to really see those effects build up.
Right, consistency matters.
Definitely. And that naturally leads us into probably the most well-known benefit, the one most people associate with ashwagandha. Just straightforward stress reduction and boosting energy. This is where that HPA axis modulation we talked about really shows up in everyday life.
Yeah, we all see the label saying boosts mood or fights stress, but it can sound a bit vague. The randomized trials you mentioned, though, they had actual data, right? Reductions on stress skills. What were the kind of real-world changes people actually reported feeling, beyond just a number on a chart?
Oh, absolutely. It went way beyond just, I feel less stressed, although that was there too. Participants consistently reported things like better sleep quality, deeper, more restorative sleep. And we all know how critical that is for everything else. They also mentioned feeling more focused during the day, having better concentration, and this distinct sense of being more resilient, both emotionally and physically. Like, the everyday hassles didn't knock them off balance quite so easily. And think about that, especially for women who are often juggling, work, family, personal life, all of it. That's not a small thing. When you improve sleep, reduce that background hum of chronic anxiety, you basically free up energy. That translates directly into a better mood, feeling more capable, more able to handle that constant juggling act. It's a profound shift for many.
That makes total sense. Now, moving beyond those really core targeted benefits we've discussed, hormones, sex, stress, the sources also touch briefly on its traditional uses for just like general wellness, boosting vitality, supporting the immune system.
That's right. Traditionally in Ayurveda, it was revered as a rasyana. That means like a rejuvenator, something believed to promote longevity and restore vigor. And while those benefits for overall vitality and maybe immune support are generally accepted in traditional contexts, we do need to be careful not to overstate the current clinical evidence for everything. For example, while it has traditional links to helping with chronic conditions, say arthritis or diabetes, the specific modern clinical data showing those effects specifically in women is still pretty limited. It needs a lot more research. So for this discussion, we're really focusing on where the strongest contemporary evidence lies for women: stress, hormones, and sexual function. That's where the data is most compelling right now.
That focused approach is smart. And it brings us, logically, to the absolutely essential topic of safety. Because these benefits sound great, fantastic even, but nothing works for everyone, and nothing should be taken without thinking it through.
Absolutely. Cannot stress this enough. Talk to your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional who knows your history before you start taking ashwagandha. This is especially critical, vital really, for 2 groups mentioned prominently in the sources: Pregnant women generally advise to avoid it unless under specific medical guidance and anyone already taking other medication.
Right, the interaction potential.
Exactly. Because ashwagandha has these powerful modulating effects we've been talking about, it can potentially interact with several types of drugs. Things like immunosuppressants, because ashwagandha might stimulate the immune system. You wouldn't want to counteract that medication. Thyroid medications are another one, as it might influence thyroid hormone levels itself. And also things like sedatives or anti-anxiety medications. Because ashwagandha has calming effects, it could potentially amplify or potentiate the effects of those drugs, making you too drowsy.
That's really helpful, concrete advice. It's not just a vague be careful. It flags specific areas people need to consider with their doctor.
Precisely. And one more thing on safety, individual response varies hugely. Some people notice effects quite quickly, maybe within days or weeks. For others, it takes longer, maybe those full 8 weeks or more we mentioned. So even if you start with that common dosage, like the 300 milligrams twice a day, you have to monitor how your body feels. Listen to it. And keep that conversation going with your healthcare provider. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, trying to synthesize this wealth of information for everyone listening, ashwagandha really seems to emerge from our deep dive, not as some fleeting trend, but potentially as a significant natural ally for women's health. We've seen evidence suggesting it helps balance key hormones, like estradiol, which is so important. It delivers clinically backed improvements across multiple aspects of sexual health desire, arousal, satisfaction, even pain reduction. And maybe most fundamentally, it offers this deep relief from chronic stress by working on that core HPA axis.
Exactly. And that HPA axis connection, that modulation of the stress response system, that's really where the future understanding probably lies. We have solid evidence, particularly for things like hormone balance and sexual wellness. That's really encouraging. But we also know, as we just discussed, that how you respond depends so much on your unique biology, your health history, your stress levels. So the provocative thought this kind of leaves us with is this. We know ashwagandha works by fine-tuning the body's very personal stress response. How can we best integrate this ancient Ayurvedic wisdom with the precision of modern personalized medicine? How do we figure out how to tailor its use, maybe alongside other approaches, to truly unlock its potential safely and effectively for your individual health profile? That's the next deep dive, really.
A really challenging and fascinating question to leave everyone with. Use this knowledge, think critically about how it applies to you, and definitely have that conversation with your trusted health professional. Thank you so much for joining us for this in-depth exploration today. We'll be back soon with another stack of sources to break down.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.